This will be a very informative video, but I will try to break it down for all to understand. First up, I am no neuron scientist, and I have very little education. I am simply a mum and an artist with communication to higher benevolent beings. It was my intention to ask these benevolent beings, what is humanity's potential, after a Cherokee elder whom I met in Australia took my hand and talked to me telepathically, making me realize that there is way more to humanity than we are taught. This question led me to learn about the pineal gland. Tripping over a few science articles back in 2009, telling me that this gland was a single gland that lived in the brain. Not much was known about the gland, and even in early 1900s it was said that it had no use at all. But now scientists know that it produces serotonin, a mood regulator activated by light, and a melatonin which regulates our sleep patterns, and this is activated by night. On the outside, the pineal gland looks like a pine cone shape, hence the Vatican Court has a giant statue of a pine cone. Inside it has tiny crystals that float around when it's not calcified by fluoride. I was also led to information that this tiny gland can also yield melatonin into producing dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, also known as a spirit molecule. Benevolent beings told me that this is found in every living thing, as it is the molecule that connects us back to the source or God or oneness. So we can find our way back closer to home by using this precious gland. If you can't produce enough melatonin from light being forced upon you by TV and mobile screens, then you can't produce DMT, which is vital to our connection to source and higher information, giving rise to what I call the 3 T's, that of telepathic, telekinetic, and teleportation abilities. I will lead you down my rabbit hole into a step-by-step story of how my information came to me, so you can decide for yourself how to interpret it, but I will also give my conclusion in the end. After dreaming that a kiwi fruit can help clear the pineal gland, as most of us who are forced to use fluoride in our water and toothpaste have damaged our pineal gland due to crystallization from the unnatural fluoride, my youngest at the time was aged 4, came into my room and talked about a place she knew between worlds. I didn't take much notice at that time, but a week later she brought it up again, and this time I listened. She said, and I quote, "I know where we go when we die. It's a place called Anyon. It's where everything is everything, where ponies are rainbows and rainbows are ponies. We live in our minds now, Mummy, but we also live in Anyon as well. You can look it up, but you have to thank me for this one." So I naturally thanked her and looked it up, and to my surprise, the word Anyon actually existed in the science world. And from what I could gather from the information on the internet, with my limited education, it was a particle that resided in 2 dimensions, as it can be a fermion or boson, thus matter or light. At the time in 2009, they were experimenting with quantum mechanics to produce a quantum computer using anyons. Next, I was led to a world of cymatics, which is a vibrational world that resides at the heart of everything. I tripped over a video similar to this one. As you can see, the sound vibration can alter the sound particles into patterns, which change as the sound is tuned into different pitches. This can also happen with our intention, as Dr. Monsieur Emoto demonstrated with his work on water, bottling it and energetically placing intentions into that water then freezing it to form similar patterns to the sound vibrations of cymatics. But each intention, depending on the love or hate frequency, produced a beautiful pattern for love and a mucked up one for hate. Also knowing that our pineal gland is like an eye full of fluid with tiny crystals that produce DMT, which is a psychedelic drug found in ayahuasca, where an individual will go into a semi-conscious state, like a forced meditative state, but way more intense, and usually sees somatic patterns before entering a place of all-knowing. And also that certain spiritual practices like Tibetans will chant in a meditative state, and they say they can enter in other worlds, which they create into mandala sand pictures looking very similar to that of cymatics. My conclusion is that our pineal gland, when in working order, is a gland that with strong intention or focus or pure sound vibration will create a somatic pattern. This is what the benevolent beings call the codes. This can only happen when we have learnt to master our mind, as a warring mind cannot enter any other vibration higher than itself. When the code has been created and we are in a peaceful meditative state of an open mind, focused on where we are going or communicating, if this is held long enough, either with a pure sound or pure intention, then the pineal gland will produce DMT, turning those tiny bars of crystals into an anion state, fluxing from physical material to light. And this is when we can enter other realities and communicate and learn from beings of higher existence. I feel many of the crop circles, not all though, as the Kabbalists try to confuse these pure communicational codes, but many of the crop circles are codes for humans to make contact with different higher vibrational beings, each one living in a different reality where we can converse and learn from within, bringing their reality to ours, expanding our vibration closer to source, allowing our original potential of the 3 T's, that is telepathic, teleportation, and telekinesis abilities to rise again within us.